guys, this is Tarot with Kittens, Weights, and Tarot, and today is part 2 of episode 3's improving your psychic ability. I decided to create this series with the help of my subscribers. They suggested, hey, what if you started doing like little how-tos, how to improve our clairvoyance, or how to improve our different parts of our intuition, I would say. And so I, in my heart, believe that everybody has intuition, everybody has kind of a sixth sense, because I believe, all animals and basically all living beings on this planet have this sixth sense. It's what's helped animals and beings survive, and and kind of make it in this world. And so as human beings, I think that maybe society and religion has kind of imposed, thoughts and restrictions, beliefs on something that's just very natural for us. And so for some people, that ability is a little harder to tap into. For some people, it's a lot easier. And that's, I think, with any talent. Some people naturally, they have a knack for drawing, or they have a knack for writing, they have a knack for numbers. Some of us have to work a little bit harder at it, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible. So as long as you're open to it, as long as you're practicing, I think that we can tap into our very natural abilities to kind of feel and sense the world around us. In episode 3, part 1, I showed everybody my beautiful crystal ball, which is my smoky quartz crystal ball. And I asked people to just comment anything that they saw in here pertaining to my question, which was, what is my grandfather's personality like, or what was his personality like since he has passed? The grandfather that I was asking about was my Filipino grandfather, so my dad's dad. My dad is a junior, so he carries his dad's name, and that was all the information I gave. So I, don't really talk about my Filipino grandfather too much on here, so I don't think people could go back and if they did go back, it'd be really hard to find specific parts of videos where I'm talking about my Filipino grandpa, who is from Cebu, Philippines. Beautiful place, by the way, and one day that's gonna be a place I go and visit and go see, my ancestors and relatives and things like that. So yes, let's get into your comments. So what I love about my series here is that it's interactive. I show you guys something and I ask you guys to kind of tap into your intuition. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? What are you knowing? Anything else? What are you seeing out your window? Signs that come to you, and put it in the comments. And this being kind of a safe place, I then make another video. I look at your comments, and then I talk about how I translate that into what I know in my language. So I do think that when we get messages, it's coming in some sort of kind of 20 questions, Scrabble, Pictionary, type information. And so then you translate it through your voice, your language, your personality, your experience, and then you give it to the person that is to receive it. The person that is receiving that information, that would be me, now has to kind of unpack that in my own language. What does that mean for me? So it's work on both sides. I've said before that if somebody goes to a psychic, they can't just sit there and take a back seat. It's like going to a doctor's office. You can't just sit and take a back seat. If you go to a psychiatrist's office, you can't sit and just take a back seat and be like, you tell me everything and I don't have to do anything. No, that person then has to take that information. What does that information mean for me? So it's a two-way street. Both people got to work at it. I have my laptop over here, by the way. The first person who commented was Ella Moriale. And she said, I saw a man standing in the clouds. I saw this as your grandfather, was a dreamer, had big dreams and aspirations, and he worked hard to achieve them. That is definitely true. So I will say that I never got to meet my grandfather. It wasn't that he passed away before I was born. Actually, he passed away when I was 9 years old. But by then, he was living in the Philippines again. And my father, who had a very strained relationship with his father, didn't want anything to do with him, and he didn't want him knowing his grandchildren. But he knew he had grandchildren, and my aunt and my nana, would kind of slip him some information. My nana being his ex-wife. So when he came to America, like early 1930s, he was a hard worker. He came through the Navy, started up a laundry business through my grandmother's house, my nana's house. So the two of them made enough money through this like laundry service out of their house to then actually have a laundromat. From that, my grandfather then had a like it was like a nightclub dinner place kind of in the gas lamp area downtown. He also had from that I think he owned part of a car lot, and then with that money he bought up, I don't know, like 7 or 8 different properties. So he made it pretty big here. He also loved to gamble, so he would like go real big, go into the racetracks. The racetracks was his favorite form of gambling. A lot of times he'd go, sometimes to Del Mar, but most of the time to TJ down in Mexico. He'd go to the racetracks down there. And so he was a hard worker. He worked really hard to achieve the amount of success that he had here. Okay, Snoop Debbie Deb also had a comment. Debbie Savatsi said, I see him side view letting me know how cute he was, that he had a sweet tooth. He liked to swim. I seen a car and a motorcycle, and he is very happy-go-lucky. That is what I did see. Okay, so the side profile showing how cute he is, I believe that, because this is all stories I've heard from my aunt, my uncle, my aunts and uncles, like my dad, my nana, is just like my dad. They both believe they're very good-looking men, and yes, my dad is a good-looking man, but to a point where it's like, there's a lot of confidence in that department. And I heard that my grandfather had a lot of confidence in that department. He loved to dress up in suits. That was his thing. Suits, cigars, hat, everything. Very 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. He was still in suits. 1960s. So he was very, like to dress to the nines, like to look good for the ladies. By the way, he was a ladies' man, which is why my nana and he got a divorce. Have a sweet tooth, just like my father, which is probably why they had the teeth they did. And I also have a sweet tooth, so I've kind of gotten that from them, which is why we all have dental issues. Okay, so she said that she also saw that he liked to swim. There was a car, there was a motorcycle. He's very happy-go-lucky. He was a very outgoing guy, so there is a lot of pictures of him and his cars. Like, he loved his cars. He liked to be the big man, even though he was very, like, in stature, like a little man. Like, I think I would have been a lot taller than my grandfather. Like, he was a little guy. But he liked to, his personality was big. It's, I achieve big dreams. I got a big car. I got, like, I dress in a 3-piece suit. Like, look at my son, he's 6'3", He liked to show off how big he was, even though he was a little guy. And then him being very happy-go-lucky. I think a lot of his friends saw that on the outside. He was a man that loved to party. Okay, going on to my girl Tracy from Two Rocks Tarot. She says, I didn't read the comments before I posted. I see 2 crows on tree branches, one with its head thrown back singing. The other crow seems to be keeping its distance, so I feel that his marriage was one without demonstrative feelings of love that made your grandmother feel left out. Lightning towards the left, thunderous clouds, ice. I feel that this man was cold feeling-wise, and he had a temper that would blow up out of nowhere, but you could see when it was coming on his face, as it literally looked like clouds rolling, coming in, the type you see before a storm. hits, if that makes sense. I saw the letter Y, and I think the word Y was often asked concerning this man. I also got the phrase feathering your own nest. And then she asked if he suffered from sickness in his lungs. She also got the impression of him being in his own little world. And that's what came to mind. She just got the feeling of cold, cold, cold. And she asked perhaps maybe he liked the cold weather. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff there, and a lot of that makes sense. So let's break down what Tracy had to say. Okay, so first talking about the tree, the two crows on the trees, and like one crow being way over here and the other crow like having its head back singing. What my nana tells me, the reason they did split up is that he loved to womanize. He loved to just kind of do his own thing, and a lot of times I believe that he had some self-destructive behavior. So although he was like super successful, it was like he was always trying to self-sabotage himself. So even though it was like, I want to succeed, I want to be big, it was also, I'm gonna do all this stuff that's gonna like, basically break apart everything I've worked for. So the woman he married, my nana, back in the day, she was pretty good looking. My nana was taller than me. She was like 5'9", looked like a 40s movie star, way back when. And so here he was with this leggy, like hot wife. He's got a nice car. He's got all these businesses, and then he decides, you know what? I'm gonna go with these other ladies too. And then my nana found out and like kicked him out of the house. And so and a lot of times he was had that macho role, which is what my dad also had. My dad's gotten better with showing his emotions, but my dad is pretty much emotionally constipated, just like his father was, where it was like, I'll go and like love around, and I'll go and I'll be like the fun guy, the party guy, the guy that everybody loves. But when it comes to like serious feelings, like, like that's blocked off. Like, men don't do that. And then, let's see, she talked about him having a temper. Both he and my father are known for their tempers. My dad's gotten better. My dad's gone to counseling and learned to control through anger management. But I believe that my dad learned from his dad. So his dad actually went to jail at one point and basically lost everything because he shot a man. So, the man didn't die, but the I don't really remember all the specifics, that I was told, but it was when he found out that somebody was cheating on him, like not really like his wife cheating on him, but more like somebody cheated him out of money, or somebody wasn't being like square with him, he would just lose it. He'd try to kill him, so he did shoot somebody. So having a temper, yes. And then once he got out of jail and he had put all of his estate, all of his business and everything into his best friend's name, because he wanted to put it in my father's name, but my father wasn't old enough yet, and that meant that my nana would have taken over custody of like all his finances, and my grandmother hated him, and so he knew that, and so he was like, okay, so he says, okay, put it in my best friend's name, so when I get out of the joint, you can give me all my stuff back. He's like, sure. So when he got out, found out his best friend sold everything and was like, oh, but we could be business partners. My grandfather tried to shoot that guy. So, okay. And then it says, saw the letter Y. So asking a lot of things like why, feathering the nest. Yeah. So that, my dad says now he wishes that he would have had more time to actually talk to his dad, because he believes that a lot of how he viewed him was colored by my grandmother's hatred. Like, she wanted her kids to hate him because she hated him. And so my dad was like, actually my dad was kind of a cool guy, your grandfather was kind of cool. And he says, I just hated him because your grandmother hated him, your nana hated him. But he says there was a lot of like why surrounding him, like, why would you cheat on her? You had like a good thing going. Yeah, she was kind of like nuts too, but like, why would you do that? Why would you sabotage everything? Why would you shoot a guy? Like, you would build yourself up and then throw it all away. Like, there was a lot of this. when he eventually got remarried and he got sick and he wanted to come back to my grandmother and said, you know, I'd leave her and I'd come back to you. She told him to F off. She was like, you cheated on me. I kicked you out, like, bye-bye, you know? So he ended up going back to the Philippines. The new wife, she left him because he was now broke and sick. And so he went back to his family in the Philippines where they could take care of him. But my dad was like, there was just so much of him messing up. Like, why would you throw your life away like that? Why would you get so many people to hate you because you were such a likable guy? Like, everybody loved you, but it was so very easy to hate you too. Let's see. And then there was talking about sickness in the lungs, and him being kind of in his own world, very cold. So yes, he smoked a lot. He smoked a lot of cigars, not really cigarettes. He was known for his drinking, his smoking, and his womanizing. That's like, you ask anybody in my family, they're like, oh, your grandpa, drinker, smoker, womanizer. But your grandmother, not so innocent either. Her nickname was Shanghai, by the way. So yeah, you know, I come from good stock. But anyway, no, I love my grandparents. But he had several strokes. Like, I think he had like 6 or 7 strokes, something like that. So he wasn't doing so hot at the end. I'm pretty sure he had something going on with the lungs too, kind of towards the end, just because of all the smoking, and even after he was like pretty disabled because of his strokes, he was still trying to smoke and drink and gamble. You know, he would have my father take him to the racetracks so that he can continue his gambling. And then being cold, yes, him being a very, when it came to serious emotions, very standoffish. Okay, Lovely T also said, I hear the word serious. So yes, on the outside, to friends, to people, he was like the jovial, like, hey, you know, party guy, you know, he's all, you know, got it going on, you know, he's all about a good time. But when it came to like his business and anything that could be potentially from the heart, truthful, serious, like, no, that's when you got the real him, and he was just like closed off. We go to Atypical Tarot. Hey! He said, I saw a face, double chin, seemed focused, serious, not smiling. And he said, thanks for the practice. You're very welcome. Okay, so double chin, he didn't have a double chin. My grandfather was actually a very small person, like I said, small in stature, but he was also very thin. You know, just like my dad's always been very thin. But I do see the double chin as being not how he actually looked, but more of having abundance. So he did have a lot of abundance. He was really smart and like really good at making money. When he'd gamble, he always won. He'd put like almost everything he had, you know, at the racetracks, and he'd always win. My dad said he's never met a luckier man. Like, he was always so lucky, yet he would just, you know, destroy himself. Him saying that he was focused and serious, not smiling. I think you guys are all picking up on like him behind the facade, behind the wisecracks and the big car and the 3-piece suit and the ladies and the money. You know, behind all that, there was somebody who was very serious and very closed off, and it's so interesting that all of you guys are picking up on that. That is so cool. Okay, Grun Eule, Green Owl, says she gets controlling from behind the scenes. Yes, so for as much as he'd be like, oh, you know, a lot of this is luck, which he was a really lucky man, and like, at least when it came to gambling, he was very hardworking, and I don't think he let a lot of people know like just how hard he was working to make things happen. I think he wanted people to see like, oh, it just came easily, like it just came naturally because I am who I am, when really he was like working his ass off. Then we get to Sherrybug D. And Sherrybug D says, I saw this one place, it looked like a long hall, and I feel like it meant he was stable, like pentacles stable, but not very accessible. Not sure if this meant physically, like maybe he worked far away and was not home a lot, or if it's emotionally unavailable. Again, you guys are picking up on the emotionally unavailability. So yes, when it came to making money, doing business, making businesses, you know, from the ground up. He was even friends with the police, like, you know, whenever there'd be like, you know, fights or something that would break out in his because he had okay, so his restaurant, which was named after my dad, he had this restaurant in the gas lamp area, and it was a restaurant by day, and it was a girly like dancer club by night. And sometimes fights would break out amongst the sailors, and a lot of Filipinos like to hang out there, and the cops would show up, and my grandfather would pay off the cops, and you know, he was a smooth talker, and so they'd be like, oh, okay, you know, and then they would leave him alone. So the cops were very friendly with him. But yes, he was stable when it came to that stuff, but so unemotionally available to like his kids, which is partly why my dad says he just had a hard time understanding him, and he would have liked to have known him more if he didn't carry the hate that his mother had. So yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, and then our very last comment comes from Rami, LOL. Says, I see a man who's got some fire in him. He had a very good heart. People liked him right away. He got a soft spot for me. I do see some scars from his childhood. And then she said, well, that's what I see here from Holland. And thank you for the practice. You're very welcome, Rami. Okay, so yes, definitely had that wands energy, had that fire energy to make things happen. I'm gonna make it big in America. You know, I'm gonna be something, I'm gonna be important. And he was. But oftentimes that bravado got him in trouble. And a lot of times I think that he self-sabotaged as well. Deep down, I think he wanted that family, and kind of towards the end he was asking for that. Like, he realized towards the end of his life, which he died in 1990 at 90 years old, he realized that he had messed up with my Nana, and he started reflecting on his life. And by then, when he tried to apologize, her hate had been seeded over so many years. She was just like, no. And so even when he went back to the Philippines, she told me that even he had gotten a grave next to her, said that one day they could be buried next to each other, and she was like, no. But he wanted to have a relationship with my dad and his daughter, you know, but just he had just burned so many bridges that by that time nobody wanted to have a relationship with him. And deep down he wanted to have that family that he had thrown away, you know. And again, I think he did that on purpose due to some possible childhood, you know, scarring, you know, from his own father and his own mother. So yeah, and having a soft spot for me, well, probably because I was born on his birthday. And I am his favorite son, my dad's daughter, so I am his favorite son's kid. So anyway, so yeah, so that's it. I thank everybody so much who commented on this. Like I said, I want this to be a safe place for you guys to practice. You get to have, you know, this interaction with me. You know, I show you guys something, you tell me what you feel, and then I get to comment on it, so that hopefully you guys feel that you can continue practicing, so you can continue honing your skills, and yeah, and just go continue being the awesome people that you already are, plus some. All right, so that's it for me, spiritual homies. I hope you dug this. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. That lets me know that you want more videos just like this. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to click that notification bell. And if you want a reading with me and you would like a scrying reading, which I do have scrying readings, but I have other types of readings as well, then head over to www.kittensweightsandtarot.com, and don't forget to join that KWT tribe over at patreon.com/kittensweightsandtarot. That just is people who really enjoy what I do here on YouTube and with my company and the tarot deck that I'm creating, and they're just trying to show a little bit of support for as little as $1 a month if you really like what I'm doing here and you just want to support all of this. So definitely head over there, and I think all my Patreon peeps who are already supporting me over there, and you get lots of freebies in the process. I mean, like, what? So anyway, I will catch you spiritual homies later. Peace, love, and chicken grease. Peace out.